Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. It is Sunday night, October the 27th, and we are coming to you live on YouTube. I'll go ahead and give a few extra minutes here for a few people to jump on. I see a few people have jumped on with us. I appreciate that very, very much. And as we do that here, Emelyn just popped on. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. Super excited for this. So before we get going, let me go ahead and just introduce the panel here. Those of you know, Darren is usually my co-host. He is not available this evening. So Charlie Serrano has agreed to come on and co-host this thing with me. So I appreciate you, Charlie, for that. Excited to talk with you. And our guest of honor tonight, we'll get to know her just a little bit, but it is Emelyn, and she is a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So we're going to dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love the setup behind you, the terrible tower. I think that's what they call it in Pittsburgh too. But super excited to dive into that good stuff. But before we do that, I have to go ahead and talk about our sponsor, which we love so very much, Nashville Tax Solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here in just a second. But again, thank you all for jumping on here. The continued growth and support of this channel. We're up to 1,220 subscribers now. We're going to reach that goal of 1,500 subscribers by the end of December. So super excited about that. So with that said, in the heart of Palm Bay, Florida, where the ocean meets the sky, there's a place where tax worries meet their end. Whether you need to file years of missing returns, a current year return, or you need relief from a tax lien or levy, Nashville Tax Solutions has the solution for you. Nashville Tax Solutions is your trusted partner in the tax resolution industry. We understand stress and confusion that tax problems can bring. That's why we're here to offer clarity, relief, and peace of mind. Listen to what some people are saying about Nashville Tax Solutions. I recently had the pleasure of working with Christopher Bennett, the owner of Nashville Tax Solutions, and I must say his knowledge and expertise in tax matters is truly impressive. He was able to provide clear and concise explanations, ensuring that I fully understood the process and the best course of action for my situation. Nashville Tax Solutions saved me from a financial nightmare. They're not just experts in tax resolution, they're compassionate too. Do not let tax problems weigh you down. Contact Nashville Tax Solutions today and let them guide you towards a brighter financial future. They can be reached at 615-502-2250. Their website is nashvilletaxsolutions.com, or you can email them at info@nashvilletaxsolutions.com, where tax resolution is achieved. And again, shout out to Christopher Bennett. So he is an actual season ticket holder for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so he actually went to the game today against the Atlanta Falcons. Wasn't the outcome we had wanted, but came down to a last second Hail Mary play. So can't ask for more than that. But he's also traveling tomorrow to Yankee Stadium to go see the New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers Game 3 World Series game. That's going to be a behind home plate. So got to look out for him at the stadium tomorrow night. But again, thank you, Chris. And you might be jumping on here in a bit. Just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. We really, really appreciate it. We couldn't do this thing without you. You believed on us from day one almost when we had under 50 subscribers. And look at us now, just growing just from April. It's awesome to see where we have gone. And thank you, Edwin. I see you in the chat. Let's go, Bucks. So we'll have you on here in just a few weeks. We started talking about that today. But with that said, the guest of honor tonight is Emelyn. And Emelyn, thank you so much for joining us. And we're gonna talk about so many things, but just a little bit about who you are yourself and how you became a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, first and foremost, I'm honored to be on here. It's a big deal for me, and it's a little nerve-wracking. I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan off the strength of my brothers and my father a little bit. And Die Hard started when I started to realize, when I got married and I realized I lose my husband in the middle of like during football season. Like I just become the girl who cooks and entertains, and it's so annoying. But I rock the Steelers gear, and then I go to Winn-Dixie, God bless Winn-Dixie, and I get asked questions about the game or the players, and I'm like, huh? I just like wear the shirt because my brothers wear it, and I got tired of that. So I got in the game and I started learning about football, started asking questions, and here I am.
And it's awesome that's really all it takes. A lot of times people that do not have interest in something, like for example, my son was not a sports fan, and we took him to a UCF game just 2 weeks ago, and all it really took was me to sit next to him and try to explain, first and 10 means this and second and 5 means this. A lot of times people are interested. It's just a matter of like giving that the opportunity to have it explained to them. Because sometimes it can look like on TV, and then you get to the stadium, it's like, where's that yellow line that they have on TV? They don't understand, but it's really all it takes. And then all of a sudden you go from like kind of interested to like a super fan overnight. And it's got to be easy for you as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. They're usually up in it a lot. Myself, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. They don't win, I think, but one game a season, and that's not a joke. That's legit. Like that's all they can muster. So, whatever. But so the first thing, let's dive into the good stuff. So tomorrow night, actually, and it's funny that it's ironic. We were just talking about this before we went live, but it wasn't planned this way. But when Charlie agreed to jump on as the co-host for tonight, didn't get a look at the schedule just yet to find out that tomorrow night the Pittsburgh Steelers play the New York Giants. So that's exciting. So, Charlie, I know this isn't the year that you were looking towards, or you were hoping for better results from the Giants. But kind of before we get Emelyn's thoughts on that, what is your take? Do they have a fighter's chance tomorrow night, or is this already a done deal?
Well, just to know that, and thank you for having me here today, Mike. This is really great, to be part of your show again. But just to know that the Steelers have two quarterbacks, that they can choose from, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I mean, we have none. Like Daniel Jones just isn't doing what he's supposed to do, and I don't think they do have a chance. I mean, I'm just realistic. The Steelers' defense is just, they're ranked number 7th in the league right now, and even though the Giants have a good defense this year, I mean, they're decent. The Steelers' defense is, I think is going to overpower. They're going to sack the living out of Daniel Jones, I think, because the line is just not strong enough to withstand that rush, or the linebackers or the defensive line that the Steelers have this year. And I don't know how many interceptions they'll have, but I mean, I'm just hoping that it's not a clobber. Is
the game in New York tomorrow, or is it in Pittsburgh?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Oh well, yeah. Okay.
So I have a friend in Jersey that's a Steeler fan, and I told him I'll root for the Steelers if the Giants are not in the playoffs, because I've seen them. I followed the NFL films from the 70s and the 90s, and I've seen them play. So I mean, I wouldn't root against them. It's not a team that I'll be like, oh, I don't want them to win, but it's gonna be a good game for the Steelers. And it's going to be a stressful game for the Giants. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I hear you. And just want to shout out Emily, said, let's go Steelers. Thanks for watching along with us.
Come
Rob
on.
Medina, this is breaking news from Rob Medina. The Giants have already forfeited the game tomorrow night.
I'm so glad that you guys are so humble. Just such humble Giant fans.
Yep. Well, and the question in the chat from Edwin, is Daniel going to throw a touchdown in the Giants stadium at all this year?
I mean, I have to just wonder what kind of offensive strategy they come up with, because either they're not giving him the plays that they're supposed to, or or they're just playing, just to, they're not showing up. Is my point here, is that they have weapons, they have some good decent receivers. I mean, Wanda Robinson, we got Jalen Hyatt. We got Hyatt. We got I don't know if Neighbors is back, but I mean, I know that he was injured with a hamstring. So I mean, so it's just frustrating not to see him throw a touchdown at home. And the other game that I watched about 2 weeks ago, they just named it as misery in East Rutherford, because the Giants haven't scored a touchdown pass, and I think the Jets haven't had a touchdown pass
right.
in a few games, and that's just not, it's not supposed to be that way.
Sometimes there's these wonky things today. Those of you that followed some of the scores today, the Detroit Lions scored 52 points on Tennessee. And I looked at the stats. Their quarterback had 85 yards passing, and that was it. But they scored 52 points. I don't even know how that happens.
Maybe they're defensive, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So, Emelyn, what I wanted to ask you next. So, obviously, we talked about tomorrow night is that game, Giants and Steelers tomorrow. So, what is your specific preference for game day, or in this case, game night? It might be a little different on a Monday night for you. So let's pretend it was a Sunday 1 p.m. game. What if you had all options on the table, whether it was just watch alone at home with the family, maybe it's go out to a restaurant and watch the game with other Steeler fans, maybe it's just have a bunch of people over, watch the game. What is your preference for that? Because some people, they don't want to be bothered by other people. Others want to just have everybody around them. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
It varies for me. I'm not a superstitious person at all, and I never want to be alone. I either prefer being home and just meal prepping while I watch the games and have that advantage. But then there's games depending on who the Steelers are playing. If we're playing the Ravens, then I want to be with my brothers and Edwin, and just all be together and be hyped up. I do like going to Hooters, so there's times I'm just you know what, I don't want to cook. Let's just go to Hooters and watch the game. And so it just depends who they're playing and what I need to do. So I don't have a preference at all. I'm down for
preference.
As long as they're on the screen. I'm not watching them on Red Zone. We're not doing that. I need them on the screen.
Yes. And Eileen mentioned that she doesn't condone my Panthers fandom. So it's funny with that. We were joking about it today, but it's true. So when a place that we used to go to a lot, I used to like to go out and with other people and watch the games in places with multiple screens. So I had gone to Broken Barrel Tavern for a while. And what those that don't know, I think I mentioned this many, many weeks ago, but at Broken Barrel Tavern, they're fans of the Steelers. I think it's the Bills, and I think it's the Dolphins are starting to pick up a little bit, but it's really been more like Eagles and Cowboys. It's kind of strange. But anyway, the Panthers game would always be shoved on the smallest TV in black and white in the corner somewhere because nobody would want to watch the game. So I kind of stopped going because it was not necessary anymore. So she's asking me to jump on the bandwagon. I think, with the Mets, with baseball, I don't care how bad they are. That'll always be my team. But I'm kind of at some point, I'm hey, I got nobody I know that's a Carolina Panther fan. When's it okay to jump off? So we'll keep you posted on that one. It's getting harder. I'm not sure how they did today, but it's getting harder to stick with them. So I'm sure they lost. So, but okay, so your preference, it kind of just differs here and there. Now what about Super Bowl? Best case scenario, Steelers make the Super Bowl this year. Would you prefer to host one or go somewhere so you don't have to worry about all that mess?
I would prefer to host it.
You would prefer,
to host it because it'll be a family affair. And so there's children involved. And so it would be better for all of us to just be under one roof and make it big, bring all the works out and just be safe at home and everybody together.
That's right. Everybody, yeah. I think, and too, you can kind of control things a little bit better, in terms of everything. You don't know where you're going. There's one TV and you're all shoved in a little corner and whatnot. And you can kind of control who comes to. Not that we know the Super Bowl is what it is. Some people watch it for commercials. Some people watch it for halftime show, whatever. But you don't want to have that person over during the big game that's talking about things that are ridiculous that have absolutely nothing to do with the game, and you're trying to be nice and hostful, but then you're just like, can you please stop talking so we can enjoy the thing? So I don't know. That's just me. But Emelyn, your thoughts this year? So where the Steelers look like in a good position right now. They're sitting there, I believe, in second place, and this game tomorrow can get them a little closer. So are you pleased? Are they exceeding your expectations this year? You feel like they're falling a little bit short? I know today I was shocked that Cleveland Browns upset with Jameis Winston of all people, upset the Baltimore Ravens. So that's good for you guys. So just kind of your thoughts on where they stand right now.
So yeah, we're 5-2-0, and I wasn't at first. I wasn't like, I mean, Fields brought us to where we're at right now, right? And so I appreciate him, but I was like, I'm glad that Mike Tomlin put Russell in, and I have some Steeler fans, friends that are fans that are like, I don't know about Russell or whatever, when they first, drafted him. And I'm like, well, he's a good player, he's older, but I'm like, I had faith in him, and he did. He brought it, and I like the fact that he can now, like, Fields can go ahead and learn from him, and so that is even more powerful just alone in itself. But physically, right now in person, like this season, Russell's gonna continue to push us forward. I truly believe that, and like standout player for me would be TJ Watt. Like, he's amazing. He's a beast, and he's leading our defense for sure. So between him, Russell, it's going to be great. And then Fields taking notes, throw him in there when we need to, or, when they see fit. I feel really confident about this season.
Yeah. And they, got, outside of what we saw today, should be able to at least go 4-2 in that division. That'll go a long way for them. With Cincinnati just kind of definitely going backwards. They're not as strong as they've been these recent years. They just kind of took for granted they're a slow starting team. Oh, we're 0-3 again. We'll catch up, but it definitely feels like they're falling back down. The defense has been really bad for this year. And in the comments, I would mention that Russ is cooking. And he also suggested I never jump off the bandwagon. I should stay a miserable Carolina Panthers fan for the rest of my life.
Edwin was on the Bucks. He's never left them. And when we got together, like, they absolutely sucked. And he just would stay sorry. It's the truth. And he's from Pennsylvania too. So I'm like, you can just be a Steelers fan with us and nobody would ever know. Like, how did you become a Tampa fan? But he stood on there and he's never wavered. And then Brady came and then he's gone. So here we are.
They really got to get rid of that uniform that they were wearing again today.
The creamsicle one.
Yes. Have they won and this is a truth, like, have they won a recent game with those on? It feels like that's the one game that they fall short on every time. I mean, they looked okay today. I mean, their play, not the jerseys, but I was surprised to see that. But unfortunately now when you lose to a division rival 2 times, that's really 3. So because the count, if they finish with the same record, I mean, if they were in the same division or something, I'm not. So like when I'm talking about Falcons and Bucks. So now if the Falcons and Bucks finish with the same record, then obviously Falcons get the nudge because of the 2 head-to-head wins over them. So what I wanted to next kind of get into is this question for you, Emelyn, and then Charlie right after. So have you got to attend a game at Steelers Stadium or I believe it's called Acrisure Stadium? So have you got to?
I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So yeah,
it's Heinz forever.
Yeah. Right.
I have not got I have not been able to go to a game there. I've seen them at Raymond James for preseason. And I met some players at the Pro Bowl a couple years ago in Orlando, but I have never been to Heinz Field. I do want to go, and I know that I will. Somebody told me they're going to take me one day.
One day.
Yeah.
We've had for me, like with Pitts, just on the Pittsburgh side of things, there's some beautiful baseball stadiums, but the number one I think if you ask most people, it doesn't have the history that others do, but where the Pittsburgh Pirates play in Pittsburgh is, like, in my opinion, the most beautiful stadium that there is. So that's on my bucket list for baseball stadiums.
Nice.
I've always been I like watching football at home. I like watching baseball both at home and in person. Not that I dislike football in person. Maybe it's that they're all 3 hours away. Like, we're kind of in that weird location, right, in Florida, where it's 3 hours up, left, and down. So it's not right around the corner. So that's unfortunate. But so the next thing we're going to kind of dive into, and I'll start with you, Charlie, and then Emelyn. So the world of fantasy football, something that we have not covered yet on this podcast, but so this was something that I was involved with for many years, as commissioner for many years, put big 32 people in-person live drafts together. And it's a lot of fun, but a lot of headaches and just people contacting you at weird hours of the night, asking you the most ridiculous questions about an ad and a drop, and that couldn't wait till 6 a.m. They had to message me at 4:30 a.m., right? But so Charlie, you're because I really want to hear what Emma has to say with her, what she has going on with that. But want to start with you, Charlie, in terms of your experience with fantasy football. Does it add to the experience of a Sunday, or does it make you more neurotic and build up that anxiety? Because instead of just sitting back and watching your game, you're worried about what the Texans wide receiver is doing, or, especially if you're in 3 or 4 different leagues, then you're going completely nuts. But what is your thoughts on the Sunday experience, added or not, with fantasy?
Well, my experience in overall, I started playing fantasy football since I was in Jersey, and what I miss the most is sharing with my brother. Like, when we would get together and we would look at our teams, we would look at our players, and just add, drop, do whatever we needed to do, to get in the game, to win the game, because we were in the same league. So, here recently, I am in one that a friend of mine is running from Okeechobee, and it's I like it. And what changes for me is that I like to participate because, in my case, that I in recent years I haven't had a chance to have a good season with the Giants, and experience a good season with the Giants in the 12 years that I've been here in Florida. I rely on fantasy football because it excites me to watch and wait for it on September. Like, oh man, I can't wait until football comes, because, I want to, and I ask around at work, at work I'm involved in a pool, and I asked around to see if I can get involved in fantasy football. Even with you, Mike, I always ask you, last time I had a, good experience was with your league, with your fantasy football league. And, it just, and the thing, that they don't see here, that I experience here at home, is that I root for other teams.
So wait, before I got to ask you then, because you root for other teams, what if you need 4 points to win and the quarterback that you need the 7 points from are playing your Giants? What happens then?
As long as they're not a Cowboy, because I don't draft Cowboy players. I don't draft Dallas Cowboys. I don't draft. I haven't drafted one, even unless it's an auto draft and I end up with one, but I end up trading him. But yeah, as long as I will root for that player, and my wife Jasmine would be like, "What are you doing, man? You're rooting for that guy? It's not even a Giant." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I need 4 points. I need those points." So it's just I know that we're pressed with time, but right, like 10 minutes before we started the stream, I was watching the Commanders and Bears game, and they had like 12 seconds left, and I screamed. He threw a Hail Mary, Jaden Daniels. He threw a Hail Mary, and they won the game. I was like, yes, because I had picked him in my pool, and I'm like, what am I doing here, man? I get excited, man.
Yeah, and speaking of Brian Anderson's here in the chat, I was talking about that ridiculous catch, and he joined us.
Incredible! It was incredible.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Mentioned that Never Cowboys loves it, but yeah, and Ed would mention the crazy catch as well. So, Emelyn, in terms of fantasy football, from your perspective, you're also a commissioner as well, and so I want to talk about your experience with that, and then the league that you're a part of. If you want to kind of dive into that a little bit.
Sure. So probably like 5 or 6 years ago now, which helped me start to understand and it helped me like learn football and really like it, was when I worked for Health First. One of our medical assistants had a fantasy football league, and I'm like, I have no idea, I wouldn't know. She's like, just do it, and just so we could just talk and have fun or whatever. And so my first year, it was 100% Edwin. It was his league. It wasn't even me. He just picked all the people for me. But when it was for time for game day, that's when I started engaging. And he's like, and he would show me like, yeah, I picked your players, but this is what they're doing. So you have to pay attention to all these games. And it was a little overwhelming at first, but it helped me to connect the dots little by little. Then the second year, I still had training wheels on, right? And so he would help me. And then after that year, I think that year or the third year, I won in the fantasy football league. So I have a championship there. And then after that, it was just me by myself. So last year, I was like, I won. It was my first year on my new job that I'm at for 2 years now. They started a fantasy football league, and I was like, I want to join. They were like, you want to join a league? I'm like, yeah, like I like fantasy football. And they're like, what the heck? Awesome. And I'm like, yeah, put me in. Like I want to play. And so I did it all by myself, and I'm like the only girl on the league at my job, and so it was like a big deal for me. I'm like, I'm leveling up, and then one of my homegirls was like, you do fantasy football. You play for the Health First team still. You're playing for your job. And I'm like, and they're asking questions. And I'm like, trust me, like if you get in it, you would understand your husband better. You will not lose him during football season. You'll have something to bond with, And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a fantasy football league. And so my brother Miguel and his boys have had a league for over 15 years now. And it's JCR, which is my father's initials. My father's gone to be with the Lord. And so I'm like, I'm going to do a lady JCR league. Like who else but me, So I did it. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? Like, it's a lot of work, but it has been a blessing to ladies and to connecting with their husbands. And I'm like, it's fine if he picks I don't care if he picks your players, but it's the point of just staying engaged. And I've had such great feedback from these ladies where like they're in it to win it, and they know, and they're bonding with their husbands more, and they're understanding football. And I add like every week, the person with the highest points gets a $10 pot. There's a $10 pot. So it keeps them engaged. It's just $10 and you get at the end. But it keeps them engaged and really working their team, And so it's been great. It's been really, really great. So last year I had 3 leagues I was on, not this year. It's just the work league and the one that I'm a commissioner of.
Yeah, because when you have 3 or more, what happens is you get in the moment, you're cheering for something, but then you realize in your other league that just hurt your team in that one, and then it's just canceling each other out at that point. I remember because Eileen would be in the league with me a lot of times, and I'm sitting there one of the many things I love about Eileen is that like from day one she's a sports fanatic and she's into everything. She even watches wrestling with me and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there in the league just going, oh, well, this is this amount of points and this is a good strategy. And she's like, do you not know who I am? Like she bosses everything. So just like she did in fantasy football, and she had a great team in that too. So, love to hear that. I do miss it a little bit. I think, it was with all I have going on to run it would be not possible, but maybe someday just join again somewhere and just to see if I still got it. Cause it was a lot of work. And when I'm talking about getting calls 5 a.m, that's not a joke. Like that would happen over the most ridiculous things. And then the biggest thing for me was and I'm someone who overreacts to everything but overthinks everything. But the overreaction week 1 and 2 drop ads are ridiculous. Like the amount of people that week 1, someone you never heard of before goes ballistic for 8 catches and 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you drop someone good, you pick up this guy, and then he never does anything ever again for the rest of the season. So there's a lot of panic after that. You got to hold on to some people. If they don't perform, give them 4 to 5 weeks. Don't go, because if you do, you're going to regret that you dropped that person. Ask me how I know? That happened many times. So we'll, but does that happen with you, Emelyn, where you kind of drop someone a little too soon? Do you ever run into that?
Not yet, no, but I'm still learning a lot. So no, it has not happened. What I have seen I've seen it in other people. Like, and when I talk at the office, I hear other people's stories of like what's going on in their team. And I've learned a lot listening to those conversations and trying to be, grasp what they're talking about. But one of the things that I seen this year that I guess I never connected with, because I had the 3 leagues last year and I'm still learning, football, but was like somebody getting drafted after like the season started, and now the person like they get drafted to a really, really good team, and so now whoever got them is like balling, and you were like, it changes everything. So it can change at any time for the better or for the worse. and I've learned that not to go off of the projections and like what your projected score is supposed to be, because that can change at any time. And how even if you're not winning, if you have like high points, then it's not about the winning, it's the points, you know what I mean? And then you can rank up like that. And so there's a lot that's still connecting for me. And
yeah, there's a lot to, it does a lot of small, that's why I put so much time into it, because there are so many little things you don't think of. I remember, Charlie, when you did one with me, one of the things, because doing it in like when you do a draft online, especially if it's people you don't know, what happens is you're sitting there, it's like on auto draft, and you're just sitting there waiting for the clock, and then you pick your person. But when you do it in person, it's a lot more fun because everybody's together, you're having food, you're picking. But what happens is you do all this work, you get 32 people or 24 people. Because what I would do is, I think it was 24, I would do 3 separate drafts of 8 teams each. I always like doing 8 to 10, because when you have 12 to 14, there's just too many bad players that get drafted. So I like to keep it smaller. And so we would do that. And so it'd sound great, it would do great. And then all of a sudden 4 or 5 people wouldn't show up. And so then you're having Timmy draft for Billy and Bobby draft for Susie. And then it can get a little confusing because, you're trying. And then we're like, well, let's penalize the person for not coming. But then, you want to keep it fair. You don't want to, you don't want to reward, if someone had the first pick and they're not there, you don't want to reward them by giving them Patrick Mahomes. And speaking of Patrick Mahomes, I do see your message, Rob. That is something that I think it's doable with Jake, who, as you know, is my nephew, is not available this evening. When he helps with the stream, that's something he might be able to do on the back end. It's a little bit above my pay grade in terms of what I can do. So I don't want to try and kind of boot this out. So we'll definitely try to get that video on that you sent me on a future episode. I just don't think I can get it to work properly on my end without shutting this down. So, but thanks for asking that, Rob. So what was I going to say? So, but the last thing I just want to share with the fantasy football too is, I definitely encourage people to try it. It's not for everybody, but you will enjoy it a lot more than you think you're going to enjoy it. Because it does give you a rooted interest in games that you might normally not watch. It doesn't mean you need to sit there from 1 o'clock to 11 p.m. on a Sunday, but it does mean that, like, hey, you get home from church or and you just want to relax. Your game may not be on until Monday. It gives you a rooted interest in a random Texans-Titans game, or something like that. Now, what I would never do.
Go ahead.
Have you guys heard of PPR leagues before? PPR.
Points per
reception or points per rush.
Yeah. I've heard of it.
Stay away from those if you can. Those are a little bit ridiculous. So in those, to shorten up the version is, in those leagues, it's better to rush 28 times for 50 yards than it is to rush 10 times for 200 yards and a touchdown, because they value how many times they touch the ball. Well, I don't care if you touch the ball 30 times. If you only ran for 50 yards, what are we doing here? I'm more impressed with someone who had 8 rushes for 100, 200 yards and a touchdown, because they score touchdowns. So just for future reference, if you ever see anything PPR, you probably want to stay away from that, because it's kind of
future
silly.
reference. I'm going to be 100% transparent. That's the league that I run.
Oh no. Okay. Well, maybe we'll turn on a new leaf. Maybe it'll do better. I don't know. But for me, it's not for me, the PPR. It's just because of that.
Well, it's all that I've known, and I'm like, I heard that before. Duh, it's mine. That's the only ones I've ever played on. It's all that I know. It's the one that I mirrored, when I started my league with the ladies. And like coming back to something you were talking about, like draft day, I've only done virtual. But next year, my brother and them, they do it all live. And oh my gosh, I've hosted so many. We've hosted so many back in the day at our house. I just leave. Then I used to leave. And even now I think I would leave because it's so many of them. They go all out. I love it for them, but they take turns. Whoever won the year before buys the whole thing on the wall and they're sticking their players and all that. And they're cooking and it's loud. But I'm going to do it next year for my lady league because I think that we're now at the level where let's get in person. Let's do it. Nobody else is picking for you. And let's strengthen that, So,
Okay.
so I think next year I'm going to do it live. And I only have a small group anyways.
Okay. So if you ever get to the point where you get a lot, like you get, 18 or 24, always let me know because I'm good with that kind of stuff because there are ways on certain sites to combine leagues. So like what could happen, for example, let's say you do have 24 3 years from now, you could have 3 separate 8-team leagues that only play each other, but then you can make it conference to conference, or then you can wait till they get to the playoffs and have the top 3 teams from each thing. So there's ways to combine leagues on certain sites. It's a little tricky, but I know how to do it. It took a lot of research and things like that.
That's cool.
It is cool because I've tried those 12-person drafts and I'm like by the 7th round or the 8th round, like I know football, but like by the 8th round, I'm like, I don't know who this tight end is. I guess I'm just going to pick. But when you have the smaller ones, then the teams are a little bit more beefed up. And I also like to draft 2 quarterbacks as well, have a starter and a backup, or actually, I'm sorry, 2 starters and 1 backup. So when you have an 18 league, you can do that. You can start 2 QBs and keep 1 on the bench. Most of the 12-team leagues, you can't do that because there's not enough quarterbacks for that.
Well, this is my first year where all of us, because last year, I believe I had 10 and a lot of them had to, not they weren't able to play this year. So I almost wasn't going to have it. And then the 3 of us were like, no, we want it. And so somebody found, 3 other girls. And so we have 6. So it's kind of cool. We're all going to go to the playoffs. I've never done that before. So that's different for me. So in my work league, I'm trying to stay at number 6. I'm a little back there now, but trying to stay in the 6 right now. But in this one, I can go to the playoffs. So it's fun.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. And then we'll dive to one other topic, but another difficult decision when you're commissioner of a league is deciding on the final week or 2 weeks of the season, like what you don't want to, I've made this mistake. That's why I'm saying why you don't want to do it is, and I think Charlie can vouch for too, you don't want your league Super Bowl to be a week 18, because if it is, you may, like back in the day, I remember when I would do it, people would have Tom Brady and the Patriots would already have the division locked up. So he's not even sniffing the field because he's a diva, he's Tom Brady, right? Mm-hmm. So now this is your most important game of the season. You need your people, but now he can't play because it's week 18 or week 17 at the time. So I always would set my Super Bowl for the week before the end of the season. There are big games week 17, but there are a lot of big players that just don't play more than a quarter because they don't want them injured before the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So that was something I always did. And so, yeah, you missed out a little bit on the final week, but then you prevented that mess because then if you do beat somebody, oh, you only beat me because Tom Brady was on the bench, So it's just something to think about. But so, Charlie, question for you here. Looks like we got about 10 minutes left, but then we'll shut this down. So what I wanted to ask you, so when it comes to in-person sporting events and whatnot, this is a little bit outside of football. What is your preference? Have you been to the 4 major sports? Have you been to hockey, basketball, college football even? Like, do you have a preference on which you like live better?
So I've been to a live baseball game. I've been to Yankee Stadium, and sad to say that I'm a Mets fan, and I haven't been to either Shea Stadium or Citi Field. But I've been to a baseball game. They're exciting when in person because you see all the action and it's a longer game. It's like really long. But I mean, football has to be the top for me. I mean, I haven't been to a hockey game. I have been to a basketball game. But I mean, basketball is also exciting. I mean, just because it's always action all the time. I've been to a soccer game. Those are exciting. I went recently to the Orlando City Stadium over in Orlando, and the first time that I was there, and the environment, they were doing the drums and all the percussion and people screaming and chanting, and I got to see 3 goals, and I got to see the game, the home team win. So it was exciting, just to see Orlando win. And but preference, I mean, even if I haven't seen a hockey game or a real basketball game, let's just say, I prefer like football. I mean,
Football.
yeah.
So I prefer baseball live over football, but I can say college football live is the way to go. We just went to that UCF game, and I thought it was hilarious. UCF, they just didn't show up to play. But what I thought was hilarious, I love the crowd reaction, the chants. I thought it was hilarious. Every single time that UCF would get a penalty, the entire crowd knew to chant, "You can't do that," every single time. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. I felt like I was watching WWE, but it was so much fun. And I do feel my age of 43 when I go to college football games, because I'm huffing and puffing to get to the seat, climbing the stairs, and they're all bouncing the entire time with so much energy. So you can't sit down just like on a Sunday morning at church. Like you can't worship sitting down like this in your seat. You got to be up having a good time. And that was me for the first couple months, because it was new. I went to Catholic church. It was a brand new thing for me. But once I realized, hey, it's pretty cool doing this. Same at a football game. You can't sit there, especially at a college football game, with the band sitting right next to you going nuts, to just sit there and not, just have a blast about it. So, and Emelyn, have you seen anything else? A slightly different question to you. So have you seen anything else live in the sporting realm outside of the major sports that maybe we're not talking about, or anything you would put, even if it's not in the sporting realm, that you would put above the football experience? Or is that like, do you think that's the top for you?
I wouldn't put it above the football experience, but I was like so blessed to see the Yankees play the last season in the old Yankee Stadium. And that was really cool. Awesome. That was really cool. And that was my first live sport anything. So that was nice, and it connected. Anytime you see something live, like you said, it connects it, and now you're in it. Like, or maybe you don't like it, but it's what connected me more to baseball. Like, my brother plays baseball, my dad played, like they all played softball growing up, and now obviously Miguel. And I was always at the games and stuff, but it was like what my family did, but I didn't really care about it. And I was always a Yankee fan, but I had never went to a game. And so once I went to it, I was like, oh my gosh. And the same for football. And unfortunately, but nicely enough, my first football game was a Bucks game. I took Edwin to see the Bucks, and we had amazing seats right at the end, one of the end zones, and it was awesome. You fry in that stadium because it's so open, but it's a really cool stadium, and those cannons are real. You feel them in your chest.
Yes, yeah, you do. So, because I've actually never been to, and Charlie, you've been to Raymond James, right?
Yourself? No, I haven't.
No? I've only been there once, and it was for WrestleMania 2 years ago. Wrestling for me live is the top of the top. However, just because all the drama, all the pyro and the music and it's just amazing experience. However, those that don't know, when you watch a wrestling event live, the ring on TV looks massive. In person, it looks like a little square, little thing. But the worst part about the wrestling experience, though, as high as I would put it, is that when they're in the ring, like you don't hear the commentators or anything like that. So it's just, you just hear them kind of grappling and stuff like that. So while the entrances and the music, all that stuff is cool, when they're actually in there, unless they're doing like these kick butt moves or something, it's a little bit like little bland, because it's like, I always thought like they're missing the ball. Like, give everybody a headset or something that they can, even if it's $20 or whatever, so they can listen to the commentators on pay-per-view while you're watching it in person, rather than just staring at the ring, So,
Yeah.
and there's a couple other things. Boxing live's okay, but I think for me it's baseball, but I definitely understand why football would be for most people. I can't really vouch for hockey. I've been to college hockey, never to professional. And basketball is okay in person, but never, ever, ever listen to it on the radio. All you hear is squeaking. It's a terrible experience. I remember one time I went to a game. I left early. I tried to listen to the game on the way home. I had to shut it off. I just couldn't deal with that. So my final question. So we'll go back to pretend that you are hosting a football get together at your house, whether it's a big Super Bowl, whether it's just a big division rivalry, whatever. What are you serving? I know it seems like a silly question, but these are the most fun. What are you serving? Emelyn, we'll start with you. Like, what's your spread? Are you outside the norm, or are you standard? Different chip every quarter, chip change.
The first time I heard that was when Delon was on. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I want to do a chip change. That is so cool. I am like a chip and dip girl. Not as much as I used to. When I used to drink and a lot, I didn't realize it till after I stopped, right? That the reason I was a chip and dip girl was because you're drinking, so it's chip and dip and it's there in front of you. So I noticed I don't chip and dip as much, but that made me want to chip and dip again, like changing it. That's awesome. But I have to have buffalo chicken dip and make it. I found out that Publix makes a pretty good one, but homemade is amazing. And then we start off with the Publix chicken tenders, make a nice big sub with the banana peppers and the lettuce and the mayo and all that. And then we'll have like meat on the grill and all that good stuff. If we're at my brother's house, we'll have his wife make a bunch of stuff because she's an amazing cook, and like everything that she possibly can make that's hard to make, we make her make it. But so I guess that's not me hosting. That's I contribute.
Yes, you contribute. And Charlie, what about you? Same question.
I usually prepare for the Super Bowl. When the Super Bowl comes, and I like to host a Super Bowl and just invite people over. I've done different things. When I was in Jersey, I did like a Puerto Rican theme with my wife. Rice with pigeon peas, pernil, roasted pork, and then finger food. And then here, it's usually chicken wings. I do chicken wings, different chicken wings, teriyaki, crispy, hot. We do the sauces and chili. I like to do chili. And
you make a good chili, that's for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love chili, man. And then and then the other regular stuff, chips. Sometimes burgers. We'll do some burgers like homemade, like homemade burgers, and just grill them and just have like a feast of finger food. That's my go-to thing.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, this has been, I can't believe it's already been the time. Like, I feel like it's only halfway through, but this time moves fast. So this has been a lot of fun to do. And I'm sure we both will be back on again sooner than later, especially Emelyn. So I'll just take this opportunity to just kind of give a quick preview of what's to come. Tomorrow night will be our first ever Monday night live stream since there's not a meeting. We will be talking all things the 16th annual Family Christmas Extravaganza, kind of previewing what's to come, all the good stuff with that. So that's super exciting. This coming Sunday, we will have the stream will be on the New York Football Jets. And then 2 weeks from tonight, we will be having on talking about the Cleveland Browns with Kevin Smith will be joining us. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. So some good stuff ahead. And we'll be also having Edwin on shortly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3 weeks from tonight. So some cool stuff on the calendar. Also, keep an eye out. It was supposed to be out a little bit ago, but keep an eye out later this week. Myself and Eileen were invited to Fear Reach Scream Park. We were able to film inside of the different houses and just kind of record all that good stuff. We were invited guests out from the channel to that event. So that was a lot of fun. So that'll be coming out as well. So super cool. Thanks to the there's 7 new subscribers since the start of this stream. And so that is awesome. I know not a lot of people get shy. They don't want to type in when they're on, but I can kind of see it on the back end. So thank you to whoever you were that subscribed. I appreciate it. But thank you again, Emelyn. Thank you, Charlie. And until next time, everybody, we'll see you around the ballpark.
All right.
All right. Good night.